For a lack of a better explanation, I would say that the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri is literally the oldest self-insert fanfiction that I have ever read. And also, for some reason, this book feels like a drug-induced religious delusion that he just had for like 13 years and just decided to write this, because oh my god, there's so much to talk about this. This was a journey. Hello everyone, this is Darkest Hour Reads, and today I want to review The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. So obviously this is a very famous book. This is one of the most relevant poems or stories from the medieval era, especially for the Western cultures. But yeah, there's a lot that we have to discuss. There's a lot to say in here. I will be quite critical of this book and of religion in general. So if you are not very comfortable in that sense, please make sure you scroll. So first things first, starting with the summary. The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri is about Dante's journey through hell, the purgatory, and then heaven. And it's just basically the journey that one soul does when we die, right? So it's basically a massive book to discuss anything related to Christianity, especially Catholicism, but also at the same time the journey of us being sinful and us being imperfect because we are human, but also at the same time the consequences of these actions and these sins, how we manage to bring our soul forwards and just to find the love of God, right? Which is the end and the main point of Christianity. Also at the same time, I have to mention that this book is separated in 3 parts. So we have Inferno, which is hell, then we have Purgatorio, which is purgatory, obviously, and then we have Paradiso, which is heaven. And in each part we see that obviously, first of all, there are 33 chapters, or cantos as it's called in Italian, well, in medieval Italian, for chants or songs. I don't know exactly how to translate it, but also in each part we see different guides and different characters which represent whatever Dante is trying to express. Obviously, we start with Inferno, which is hell, and basically we start the book with Dante being lost in a forest, right? He is completely lost. He doesn't know where he is suffering. He sees beasts that are trying to get him, which is an allegory for the sins, and then once he thinks that he is done for, that he will his life will end, there's someone that saves him, which is Virgil, who is his first guide, right? And Virgil and Dante are the ones that guide us through hell, through the whole circles of hell. For those who don't know about the classic story of the circles of hell, basically Dante separated all the scenes by circles. So basically whatever you do in your life, you get put into any of these circles afterwards, right? So there's 9 circles, and I have my notes over here, so I'm sorry if I don't give you direct contact, but yeah, basically there's 9 circles, and the first one that we find ourselves in is the limbo, which is all which is the place where all the souls go when they don't when they either haven't been baptized, or they don't know of the existence, or they didn't know of the existence of God. And it's just basically everyone that is before Jesus, right? Before the religion started. We see a lot of ancient historical figures. So for example, ancient Greeks or ancient Romans, that's where they are, because obviously they haven't been baptized and obviously they didn't know about the Christian God. Then we have circle 2, 3, 4 and 5, which are basically the classic circles of hell, where we have the classic sins, right? So we have circle 2 is lust, circle 3 is gluttony, circle 4 is greed, and then we have circle 5, which is anger. And basically in each of these circles we have different types of punishments that are related to the sins, right? And it's more as a way to these circles, obviously people are getting punished and people are suffering. So for example, we have in the circle 4 we have greed, which is like literally souls are thrown into a pit of melting gold, right? Like that is like, if you're in hell, that means that you're suffering. Not if you're in the limbo, but yeah, in the other circles, whatever you have done, you will pay for it, right? But I think it's quite interesting because these 4 circles, like the first 4 circles, are for people that have committed sins that are related to themselves, right? Like we see how there's a separation of the circles depending on the gravity of the sins. Then we have the rest of the circles that are separated into 2, and then you have like sub circles or like subdivisions, but like that is a little bit too complicated for us to get into. Basically, circle 6 is for heretics, circle 7 is for violence, so whatever kind of violence you've done, you go in there, which the subdivisions are to your neighbors, but violence towards your neighbors, violence towards yourself, and then violence against God and nature, right? And then we have circle 8 is fraud, and then circle 9 is treachery. I think it's quite interesting because the classic sins that we see, which are the 7 sins, right? They are not really that important in this sense. Like we know that these sins exist, and Dante makes sure that we know about these sins, but also at the same time, there are circles that are not really related to sins, in the sense of it's more the actions that you do that are related to the sins that matter in this part, in Inferno, right? I also think it's fascinating the fact that we see in Inferno, the only people that we see are the people that actually have committed these things, right? In the sense of all the characters that Dante and Virgil meet are people that have either committed fraud, for example, or that were known for being greedy or lustful. And it's just like we see all these historical characters that are known for these things, not only in the Bible, but also in actual history. We see all these people that have committed these sins that are in these circles of hell, right? So for example, we have, if I'm not mistaken, we have Cleopatra that is known for being lustful, which I have my disagreements about this. But yeah, she is in the second circle of hell because she is considered as someone that did lustful things, right? According to the Christian values. Then afterwards, so after Dante meets Satan, he goes into the purgatory, or purgatorio as it's called in Italian, and basically he goes through the journey of people that are good in nature and that haven't committed the sins but still have the sins within them, right? So someone, for example, who is naturally jealous, or someone who is naturally lustful, they are over there just to repent for their sins, or like repent for the impure thoughts that they had. We see quite a lot of characters over here as well. And then obviously Virgil, who is Dante's guide, stays there. And then the new guide is Beatrice, who is Dante's lover, or Dante's love at the end of the day, ultimate love at the end of the day. And it's his muse as well. And then finally we have Paradiso, which is heaven. And basically we also have the whole journey of Dante going through all the circles of heaven, which I didn't know there were. But yeah, it was quite interesting to see what type of heaven people have depending on what they have done in their lives, right? Or like the good things that they have done. So obviously we see people that did good things for their city, for their family, who sacrificed themselves, or even people that were like part of the clergy as well. We saw knights, everyone basically, like everyone and their mother was over there. And then we also see that the guide changes again, and it's not Beatrice, but it's Saint Bernard, who was also a poet but also was a clergy. Obviously Dante goes through all the circles of heaven, which I think it's hella cool, the fact that each circle is one planet of the solar system. I think that is incredible, and I think it's so cool. But then obviously he goes into paradise, and then what we call the Empyrean. That's how I pronounce it. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but yeah. And then where yeah, he goes to the Empyrean, which is where the essence of God is. And then he meets God, and finally his journey finishes after he understands what is the true meaning of humanity and what is the true meaning of being a good person overall, right? And then just wakes up from his vision. Now, getting into the discussion, which is obviously the juicy part, there are two things that I have to mention. And the first one is that I think the Divine Comedy represents Dante's journey through Christianity and through all the feelings that he feels as a Catholic, right? Because for those who don't know, if you are not Catholic or if you have never experienced Catholicism as a whole, I have to say that the one thing that everyone has in common is the fact that we feel guilt, right? As someone who is ex-Catholic, I can say for a fact that the one emotion that I see in every single Catholic and that I saw in myself was guilt. No matter what you do, you will feel guilty about it. Even if it's good, even if it's great, even if it's horrible, you will feel guilty about it, because that is what Catholicism is overall. It's, you're literally guilty and horny all the time. That's why like all these medieval like paintings are so horny but so like guilt tripping at the same time, because the one thing that we have in common is that we will always feel guilt. Going back into the topic, I think the Divine Comedy represents Dante's personal experience with religion, right? Because we see how, first of all, he wrote this book in the span of 13 years, right? Before he passed away. So he wrote it late in life, first of all. And also it took him 13 years to write it. So in this sense, how I view it is that this book is literally Dante's life journeys, right? So the first example that I see is that when the book first starts is that Dante is lost in a forest, right? And he meets the three beasts. And it's just like, this is an allegory of him being lost in life, of him not knowing what to do, or him being trapped with sin overall, with the three beasts, right? And then when he gets into the purgatory, for example, he gets painted the 7 P's, which are the 7 sins, right? And then it's his journey to cleanse himself from these sins and to make himself pure to get into heaven. And then yeah, it's just like it. And he also, like, all the people that he meets during his journey in any single part of the book, they are always related to him in some sort of way, right? They are either historical figures that are part of Italian history, or are also figures that he venerates, or that he thinks are good examples and that also relate to him in some sort of way. So for example, we have Virgil, we have Beatrice, we have Saint Bernard, but also at the same time we have other classic ancient figures like Epicurus, I think, comes in over there, and yeah, it's just like all these historical figures that are in some sort of way important for him. And then the other thing is that this book is the prime example of Catholicism, as I said before, right? It's the perfect example of how Catholic exaltation looks, or like the exaltation of Catholic values looks. Because we see obviously the guilt for the sins that you have committed, or for the bad actions or the bad feelings that you have, but also at the same time, it's like, it represents, like the way all the circles of hell or all the circles of heaven are represented, are organized, is just like perfect example of Catholicism, right? Because we see, for example, the fact that suicide is considered way worse than wrath is very Catholic, because it's like, oh, we can forgive you if you feel angry all the time, or if you hit people, or if you do the worst things to people, but what we can't forgive is you killing yourself, right? Because then you're not Catholic anymore. And then I think also it's like, it also shows you how not following a God-fearing life can affect you, and what are the horrible things that will happen to you if you don't follow this, like, God's life, or the life that God expects you to live, right? And then lastly, obviously, we see all the saints and we see Jesus, but the most Catholic thing is seeing the Virgin Mary. Like, Virgin Mary is the one true thing of, well, the second one true thing of Catholicism, which is the obsession with the Virgin Mary. We see it all the time. It is everywhere, and it's just like, it just shows that Dante was a true Catholic. Now, as part of the analysis, why do I think that this book is a self-insert, and then also why do I think this is the perfect example of Catholicism, or like what the exaltation of Catholicism is, right? So the first part, which is why do I think this is a self-insert, it's because of obviously all the characters that he meets, but also more importantly, it's the characters that guide him, right? Because we see, for example, in Inferno, we see how he is guided by Virgil. We see Virgil as this as this amazing figure, this fatherly, low-key sexual figure that he venerates, right? And that he just wants to be like him, and he knows that he is not perfect, that he is human at the end of the day, that he has also made mistakes, that makes him relatable, right? And that makes Dante feel like him. So therefore we see how he is like this hero of his whole entire life, this ancient, amazing figure that guides him through the journey of Inferno. So the journey of understanding what is wrong with him, or what are the sins that he has committed, right? And then when he gets into purgatory, when we get to Purgatorio, we see how Beatrice, for example, follows him around and just shows him that obviously, even though he has these feelings, even though he is not perfect and has these guilt that he needs to repent from, he is still valued, he's still good enough, and he is still perfect for her. Mind you, Beatrice is not his wife. Like, Dante was married to someone else, right? But Beatrice is this figure, like this historical figure that also lived around the same time as Dante, that he is in love and obsessed with, even though he has seen twice. But yeah, she is this great figure, this great love interest that he has always had and that he will always follow, because she is the true meaning of godly love, right? And then lastly, we see Saint Bernard, who is basically someone with the knowledge and artistry that he desires to have, or that he thinks that he has, or that he will have in the future, and that's something that he looks like, that he keeps very close to him, right? He is the perfect godly Christian figure, an artist. He's the whole mix, right? He is everything that Dante wants to be. Now, regarding the second part of the question, why do I think this book is the perfect example of Catholicism and Christian exaltation, right? So we just have to see the characters that appear in hell or in Inferno, right? Because all the characters or creatures that we see in heaven are Christian creatures, of course, or Christian historical figures. We see all the saints, we see the Virgin Mary, we see Jesus, we see God, obviously, and also all the good values that a good Christian should have, or should have. Whereas in Inferno, we see all the historical figures, or all the ancient deities that are not Christian, right? We see Muhammad over there because obviously he presents a bad idea of God, or we see ancient deities. We see all these examples of people that believed in other religions that are not good enough, or that are not Christian, and therefore they don't represent the true God that is the Christian Catholic God. So therefore they have to be in hell, and they are fraudulent because they are not speaking the true meaning of God, which is the Christian Catholic God. So, as a conclusion, The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri is literally a self-insert from Dante that he wrote on his last 13 years of his life in order to deal with his own religious guilt because of all the bad things that he did in his life, but also to process all the grief that he experienced by losing the people that he loved, like Beatrice, for example, but also at the same time some of his friends that he meets in the afterlife. And then lastly, the main point of the book is for him to find the true meaning of his life, or his mortal human life, and the true meaning of his soul's existence, which is to basically find the purest form of love, which is godly love. That's the main point of the book, right? And the main point of the story is that everyone goes through this journey, but the one thing is that you have to abandon all your human characteristics, and in order to be perfect, and in order to be a true example of Christianity, which is that you shouldn't care about anything else except God's love, or find the God love, like the love of God in you, and then just expressing it towards other people and towards yourself as well. The one thing that I have to say before we leave about this book and its values is that obviously these are not my beliefs. These are Dante's, and also you have to take into account that he was middle-aged, very rich man from Italy, which is very Catholic, and also from the medieval eras, which is 800 years ago, which makes him even more Catholic or even more Christian. So that is, like everything I said beforehand, that those are not my beliefs. Those are Dante's. And personally, I think that obviously you can believe whatever you want. You can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be anything. Everyone is accepted in here. We're talking about books. We are not talking about religion and race. And also at the same time, yeah, everyone is accepted, right? And then regarding Christian values, obviously, as someone who is ex-Catholic, I have always a bone to pick against Christianity and against Catholicism. I think in general, Dante has explained extremely well what Catholicism is, and also the way it's explained to people that are Catholic themselves, right? This is something that my old pastor could say and I would believe him, right? Like, this is something that just is natural within Catholicism. So yeah, I would say that this is a good explanation of Catholicism. I still think it's trash. The book itself is quite good. Very long. It's too long. Like, you don't need to be here like writing 600 pages just to talk about how the love of God is the best thing that you can have. Like, honestly, get a grip, right? But yeah, in general, I would say I would give this 2 out of 5. I don't want to give it too much, but also I don't want to give it too little. So I would say 2 out of 5 is a good score for this. This is a classic. It's the classic representation of Christianity and hell and heaven. So therefore, it deserves its merits, but also at the same time, too long, too biased, and yeah, just get a grip and just go to the church. Like, just go to mass instead of actually feeling guilty for your sins. Yeah. So that's all for today. I hope you liked this review. And if you have read The Divine Comedy, please comment down below what you think about it, or maybe follow me on my social media and we can discuss, because I would love to hear other people's opinions about this book. I thought it was fascinating, but also I thought it was too long, obviously, as I said before. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next Monday, or I'll see you tomorrow on my social media. So bye, guys. Thank you.